today I am very excited because I've been trying to get this young man on the show for, I think, about 7 years since we started the podcast. He was on our list. And I think at the beginning he denied me, if I remember correctly. I set one of my teammates out, hey, see if you can get David Garibaldi. And hey, he came back. He's kind of busy. I'm like, oh man, I'm a huge fan. So today, finally, after all these years, we get to meet David Garibaldi. He is. Why am I so pumped up? Not only did I have a big desire to get him on the show, I am a fan. I have seen David perform his artwork and his entertainment a number of times. The one that I remember off the top of my head was at Bayside Church, where you put on a presentation and you did a painting and you turned it at the end. You kind of did the reveal and turned it right side up, and it's like, whoa! I was blown away. So today we get to I get to meet my idol in a way. He's an artist. He's an entertainer. He's a heck of a lot more than that, so we get to meet David Garibaldi. David, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me here. And, your reputation also precedes yourself. I mean, we have a lot of mutual friends, and, I've heard nothing but amazing things. So just perfect timing that we got to make this happen.
All right. Well, this is great. Yeah, I think you're friends with Uriah Faber and Taro Arai and probably a number of other people. But I knew you had connections with them, and I follow you on Instagram. And so let's dive in. Okay, so maybe just for those people who don't know you yet, can you give us an overview of who you are and maybe a little bit about your business? Because we're an entrepreneurial show, but we want to know the man behind the entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I'm an artist first and foremost. Before I talk about the business part of it, I create. I'm a performance painter. I create these large portraits in minutes to music, all while creating this experience, using sound, using, theatrical stuff to make a painting, seem interesting and entertaining to an audience. And then I do this time and time again. On any normal year, I'm doing about 100 plus shows a year around the world. In addition to, as the brand has grown, other, brand type of deals or collaborations, just doing, and also a lot of charitable stuff as well. Has been very, very big part of my career in building the business. But honestly, I've been doing it for about 18 years up until this point, going on 19. And it really wasn't until last year that I feel like something clicked. And it was, part of it was the, having the time. In an instant, I went from doing 100 shows to 0. In March 15th, we had moved into this brand new, beautiful studio on Broadway and 5th Street, and everything came to a halt. And I'm like, two things are going to happen right now. I'm either going to dig my head in the ground, or we're going to do something that we've never done before. And that's where I feel like we're going now, But I go back to it. At the base of it is still making the art process entertaining to an audience.
COVID, sorry to interrupt you, COVID was a blessing in disguise in some way. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. So if you can imagine being gone for 100 plus shows a year, you're traveling quite a bit. And obviously I go out, I come home, sometimes for longer, sometimes for shorter amounts of time. But, living a life fragmented like that is hard on. I have 2 kids and relationships and just friends and also, personal relationships. And so, one, I think just really diving into the relationships in my life, that's probably the foundation. But also, I have constantly had these ideas about how do we scale what we do as a creator, and those are the things that I got to dive into, and I'm still trying to figure out. Now I got to dive into that in March of last year after a little breather. I was like, I need a little
100 shows a year.
break.
I could see maybe there was the time off was appreciated at some level.
Oh yeah, I mean. Yeah, I needed that time with my family. That they never got enough of me, and I never got enough of them, and so we got to dive into that. But also, I think that there was a lot of creative ideas that translated into business that I never got to dive into as well, because I had just been going and focusing on that one vertical of like live performances, live shows, and kind of just open up a whole new world.
Okay, I want to dive into that, but first I want to go back in time a little bit. You're a creative person. I'm kind of wondering, like, what inspired you, and when did you discover you had the it factor to, where you could wow people?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of a lot of things. So growing up, I was always into art. I was always drawing in an advanced way. So I think the first, sign was just the reaction that I started seeing from teachers or people outside of my family. Like, your family has to be nice. My kids are very creative, but I'm going to tell them that their artwork is beautiful regardless. Right. And so it's outside of that family circle where people start, tilting their head. They're like, this kid has got something. And I started picking up on these things. And so I still wasn't focused or disciplined. So that, let's just,
Is that normal, though, for creatives to maybe be less disciplined or focused?
Of course, because it comes so easy. If something comes so easy to you, why do you feel like you have to work as hard for it? So naturally, anyone who has an incredible talent just given to them, they're not as disciplined. That's why it's amazing to see these, high performing athletes and artists, because if you recognize that, wow, they had to actually be disciplined to get there. And that's something that doesn't really come natural, I think, to an artistic mind.
Interesting. Yeah. So in some ways, it's a hindrance, being that creative or having talent. It forces you to have to find something new in yourself, the discipline.
Yeah, and I think it can be if you don't recognize that. And so luckily, as my journey went on, I was doing art, and I also started playing music. So I started playing the trumpet at an early age, which requires practice. You have to go to rehearsal and practice and do the same thing over and over again. And I didn't know until later on how important that was, the repetition of doing that, rather than drawing a new idea, moving on to the next new idea, actually working on the same idea and trying to get better at it. That discipline in music probably set me more on my path to what I'm doing today than just the art. Because again, because the music didn't come as natural, but I loved it. I loved playing the trumpet. I can go through my scale. I started taking lessons again a few years ago, just because I wanted to include it as part of a live show. Just to, entertainers inspire me. So some of the biggest entertainers, they always surprise you with something, and I was like, I'm going to pull out the trumpet today.
Who, when you think about people that inspire you in entertainment, what names come to mind?
I mean, everyone from Jay-Z to Wayne Newton,
okay. I was thinking maybe somebody like Prince, who is an entertainer.
That's another huge one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jay-Z to Wayne Newton. Yeah, that's I would not have guessed that one in a long time.
But because he's an entertainer, it's not because he's known for his voice or just his acute discipline to his crafts. He likes to move people through through what he loves. So
okay.
Yeah.
So you're growing up. You discover you've got some ability. You discover some self-discipline, and the tie to the music, which is incorporated into your shows today. Okay, so then walk us through the inspiration, though, because you're changing lives, and we'll get into that a little bit. But you change people's lives, and in addition, you're very entertaining.
Thank you. And I would add one more part to this. So in high school, there was an animation teacher that totally changed my life. And in animation, it's based on storytelling. So just having that understanding of storytelling. And then during that time, I was also into dance. So again, adding another discipline, working on the same art over and over again. So those were kind of like the tent poles in the journey that I feel like played the biggest role in me one day coming across the artwork of Denny Dent, who started performance painting in the style that I am inspired by. And with this type of art, you have to rehearse it. You have to do it over and over again. It takes over a decade to get to a place where I can just walk up to a wall and just do something. But to get there, I had to do the Hendrix portrait, tens, if not a week at a time. I mean, at this point, I've probably done it hundreds of times to this
Well,
point.
yeah, and maybe just for our audience, if you haven't seen this, how long does when you go to do your performance, you start some music and you just start slapping paint against a canvas, and people are like, "What?" But you're moving around, and it looks, it
looks crazy.
What is he doing?
You can say it. It looks crazy.
What's he doing? So how long but you have to paint it so dang fast, right?
Yeah.
So in order to not lose your audience.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's done in the length of a couple songs.
Okay.
It's my threshold is about 6 minutes. I feel like after 6 minutes, I'm losing my audience, or hopefully they're along for the ride. But 5 to 6 minutes, it's a couple songs. There's enough peaks and valleys in there to bring them along the journey. But it happens very fast. And really the portraits are the most minimal information that I can put on a canvas to tell who it is. So with that process, even in my preparation, I'm thinking about what light and shadow say who this is. Like if I were to paint your portrait, I start looking at first characteristics and shapes and blocks. And then from there, if I were to shine a light on one side of your face, what can I focus on at minimum to get that point across in 5 minutes?
Okay, yeah, and maybe find something distinctive about that person, because I've seen you, I've seen the Jimi Hendrix, but I've also seen you paint Jesus.
Yep.
That's the one I'm thinking of from
Yeah.
Bayside. I think you painted Jesus, and it was, you showed emotion in being enthusiastic about doing what you're doing, but then the portrait of Jesus was... you could see the pain that it was a painful side of Jesus.
Yeah. So online, there's a lot of these speed painters, and someone would see what I do and call it speed painting. And I think speed painting is awesome, but it focuses more on the time of getting something done quickly. And I specifically say that I do performance painting. And, think about this. Think about if you're putting a product out into the market, you want to be very specific about the words you use, because it's going to attract people and it's going to set a level of expectation of what they're buying into. And so performance is the biggest part of what I do to not only actually capture that in a painting, but also what I hope made you feel that way was the music and the sound and how I moved, and every single part of that process is part of the performance to hopefully make you feel something. And so, and obviously the painting again has to stand alone on its own. You have to feel that pain if that's what I'm trying to get across, even after the lights and the sound is all gone.
Yeah, and then is it twice as difficult to paint something when it's upside down? So you'll paint, and we're like, what is he making? I can't even tell what this is. And at the end, you're like, voila, spin it 180 degrees, and it's, oh my gosh, it's Jesus.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Matter of fact, I don't think it's even more difficult. Sometimes I think it's easier to paint it upside down, because I'm not trying to paint a portrait at this point. I'm trying to create specific shapes in a certain place on the canvas that I know later on, because I've done this, time and time again, that it'll portray that person. And so there are some portraits where it's harder to do this than others. And I try to only do portraits upside down that translate well in that style. Okay. But so I would say, yes, some portraits it's easier. Other portraits, it's definitely double the work.
All right, well, let's continue walking through the journey. I tend to interrupt and take it down side tracks. But okay, so you was there a time when there was a breakthrough moment? You became a professional?
Yeah, I would say. Well, I think that the breakthrough was when I did my first live painting. So this is before I was performing at all. I was painting live at the Fox and Goose in downtown Sacramento. Mm-hmm. It's a pub, but they had these jazz nights. Started painting live, and I remember trying to sell my first painting. And I remember the DJ that night said, "Hey, I'll give you $200 for it." I asked for $200. He said he would give me $50, and I said, "All right, I'll take it." And I knew that I had a starting point right there. I knew that it wasn't zero. It wasn't nothing. that there's something
I wonder
there.
what that painting is worth today, right? The first one you've ever sold.
I mean,
Do you know the guy?
we don't keep in touch, but I know who it is. I know he's still active, and I could reach out to let him know how much it's worth now. But you know, he bought it for $50. I sold it out of the back of my car, and I think this is all retrospective, looking back on what I was going through at the time. But I knew that I could exchange some sort of value for this money. You know, whether it was the tools I was using or the time, whatever it was. And then I knew I had a place to start. And I said, so the next one, I said, I'll take $200. And then they'll go back down to 50. I'm like, how about 80? You know? And so it's like this exercise began of doing what I loved and then finding a way to exchange it. So I think that started my professional journey. But my first actual big break was a publishing deal that I got from a company in San Francisco, but I met them out in New York. It was a crazy journey how I even got there. A local friend of mine, Kevin Costa, flew me out to New York City because I couldn't afford it. And he's like, there's this art expo going on. You got to be there. You got to meet, you just got to go work the room and hustle. So that's what I did. It's New York. You go work a room, you hustle. I took pamphlets of my work. And eventually, I ended up getting a few offers from publishers, but I settled with the one in San Francisco. They gave me my first deal, and I started getting these checks every month from them publishing my work. And I thought, this is like having a record deal for an artist. And this is 2005, maybe?
And how old are you at that time?
I was 20 when I started, so I was maybe 21, 22.
21, 2005. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you're still a kid, really.
Yeah, and it was quick, but I didn't have any other option. There was no plan B. There was no, well, if this doesn't work out, it was, this is it, and I'm going to go full on into this.
Were your parents good with that?
They were. Yeah, my parents were and are still, you know, entrepreneurial minded. My mom is a hairdresser. She's a hairstylist. Actually, hairstylist. I shouldn't say hairdresser. Please forgive me, but she's earned her living and built a life off of following her passion. And I've seen my dad build businesses and lose everything and build it up again and back and forth. He's doing great now, but I've seen them go through these transformations in life that I just apply to, look, I'm just going to do what I love. And even in the event that it doesn't work out, I know what it looks like, that's not the end. So I think essentially, yes, they were supportive, concerned.
Yes.
More so my dad than my mom, but
why was your dad concerned? What was his worry?
Well, I think because he had been through that before.
Okay.
You know, he knows what it feels like to have a dream crushed.
Didn't want to see you in pain.
But I needed that, you know, we've all been through many dream crushing moments in life. And,
tell me about it.
You know, and I mean, like, not just someone cut me off on the freeway. I'm talking about you're trying to get this deal or this show or even at the show where I think I do a great painting and it's a terrible painting. You know, that's a dream crushing moment, and it happens. You know,
I guess, yeah, because you only have one chance. You're out there live. You better not mess it up.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. But you know, you can't protect your kids from that, and you have to really go and experience it. And you'll either you know, change your mind on how you feel about this journey, or you're gonna double down. It'll reaffirm how you feel about it.
Are you gonna give latitude to your children like that?
Yeah. I'm gonna. They gotta. Sorry, kids, you got to know what it likes to have a dream-crushing moment. They're like, thanks, Dad. But you got to give them the room. I think really anyone. I think as long as you equip them with some tools and some knowledge to help guide them, the experience has to be done on their own, and we have to do that on our own as well.
Well, on your way to that this break, were there? When I talk to entrepreneurs, it's like it's invariable. Maybe you're the exception, but there are really difficult times at the beginning, and starving artist, right? We've all heard that term. Was it a battle? Was it a grind?
Yeah, because, you know, even though I was getting these checks, they were sort of like, they started going up and down. And then I would sell paintings, I would have a great month, and then I wouldn't. So in the beginning, there was no consistency because I had not built the momentum yet. I didn't understand this early on. I didn't understand the amount of relationships you have to build along the way to truly create momentum in this world, in the quote unquote art world, or in the world of art that you're creating.
Okay, so you're marching along, and then when did you decide to make it a performance type of business, and what inspired that? Obviously, you have the ability, and you saw the gifts coming together, but was there yours? It's more than just entertainment. You're doing it with purpose behind it.
Yeah. If it wasn't for Denny Dent, who again was, I feel like the first true performance painter. There were some other people that came after him, but the way he had done it was just so raw and real. And then he also had this inspiring message as well. So I saw that and I thought, and at the time too, this is when I was now 25, early, starting to teach myself how to perform. I knew that having a purposeful message behind what I was doing was going to be important. Because again, Denny Dent was this example. He was inspiring people along with entertaining them. And genuinely in me, I connected with that. I didn't know what the message was yet, or I didn't know what it would become, but I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And so, imagine this. Not only am I figuring out how to do the actual painting, like get that done in time, I've got to cut and edit sound to carry the show and the performance. And then I've got to work on this message. It's like I'm doing, 3 to 4 jobs in one. And when I started doing this, I think it was these moments where I just felt exhausted and I knew I can't do this alone. I need help. And that, to me, that moment opened me up to think, all right, I need an agent to help sell because I can't do that and be a great performer. I need someone to help come set up at the shows because I can't do that and be a great performer if that's the ultimate goal. And eventually that's what paid off, is asking for help. It cost me something. It took a little bit out of my pie, but ultimately over time, it's really what paid off.
Well, there's a lesson in there, I think, for entrepreneurs out there that are the solopreneur types. And if you want to, maximize your opportunity or bring out the best that you have, you will. Nobody builds a truly great business alone.
That's true. You can build a business, but not a great one that's going to really last over time. And we all want to build something that can last without us, that can live on. Maybe part of it is ego. Maybe the other part is an impact you want to make on the world. You have to decide that along the way, but that's not done alone at all. I don't know any successful business icon, or really any true icon that's just done it by themselves at all.
So what is your purpose?
I actually shared this morning on social about this story, but when my painting started being auctioned off at these charity events early on, and I had spent a few minutes on stage, a few $100s in materials, and then that was now being turned into, in moments, tens of thousands of dollars, I just knew that I wanted to use that moment and these moments to raise money for causes that are much more important than me. And so I, set my sights on everything I do. Every part of what I do is I want to give as I go. I want to convert these small moments of time that I have on stage, these small materials, into just something bigger for others. It's been everything from the Special Olympics to police youth charities, and the list goes on. Make-A-Wish Foundation. It's really whoever I feel like is empowering people. I want to use my platform to help them.
Tell us how one of those transactions might work. So somebody, let's call it Make-A-Wish.
Yeah.
They want to work with you, and you go to one of their events and you paint. Is there some, and then they get, for those listening, it's like it gets auctioned off, typically from what I've seen, and then for a lot of money, and then what happened? All that money doesn't go there, I assume.
Correct.
You guys have some kind of split or something like that.
Yeah. So charity events, we have a different sort of program for them. There is a smaller fee than our normal one, and obviously if we have to travel there, that those things are taken care of. But what we do is we donate a huge percentage of those proceeds, as we really bank on them winning and them coming out on top. And so, let's just say we'll find out how many people are in attendance, and we'll say we should probably do three or four paintings.
Okay.
To at least more than cover everything. And so, on average, the paintings can go for, on the low end, 5,000, on an average, 6 to 7, and then they've gone up to tens of thousands each. Times that by 3 to 4, them paying a few $1,000s in expenses really pays off. And the thing is, it's not a program for everyone. There are nonprofits out there that have built-in, giving programs and people that show up to these galas, so they can weigh the risk. There are others though that we'll do everything. We'll, as long as they have a production going on, we can't bring that with us, but we'll just go out there and perform and help raise money because we know the power that it can have later on. So there's not one set program, but the goal is that they come out way on top than us in those situations.
I saw your post on Instagram. Your goal was to raise $1 million for charity before you were 30.
Yeah.
And you've crushed that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 38 now. We're at 6 million plus. When I was 25, I think that's the one thing that really helped me ramp up my, I don't know, I think just the motivation behind what I did at the time. It gave me a bigger motivation to want to build, because I could have just been doing shows and performances. Early on, I was performing in everything from church parking lots to, high school gymnasiums and so on. But I those were cool at the time, but I knew I was not going to meet this goal by staying this person. And so in a sense, it motivated me to just want to build value in my brands, because if I had a more valuable brand, I could raise more money for causes that I believed in.
Tell us a story about, I can only imagine, I have a charitable organization, and if somebody donates to the cause in a meaningful way, I mean, I get choked up, and and we, as we think about what the funds will do to help people, I'm wondering though. So you're there getting appreciation. Is there a story that where you were making an impact and it really hit home?
I mean, there's countless stories. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. I'm sure you're familiar with Make-A-Wish Foundation. So there's a couple parts to this story, but in 2019, I think it was beginning of 2019, we got a call to go on tour with this band, and the agent, called my agent, and they talked, and they said, we want this artist to go on tour with us. So they were wondering, can the manager call him? So the manager called me, and we started talking, and I'm talking to him like, this is Doc McGee, this legendary rock and roll manager for the band Kiss.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm thinking, why do you want me to open up for your band? And so he goes into saying, look, we don't want to keep doing the same thing. We're just having a regular, band open up. But we heard about the charitable giving that you've done. We heard about you wanting to raise money. We want to do the same thing. And so I just asked him, so what do you want to raise money for? At the time, it was Make-A-Wish Foundation. And so fast forward, we do the tour. 10 dates turned into 40, turned into 80. I got to meet Make-A-Wish Foundation, people who are receiving the funds for this almost every single night. These are kids who were, suffering from the most horrible, like whether it was cancer or other, conditions. And in any given night, we're raising tens of thousands of dollars. We raised, 600, 700,000 plus on that tour. Take the money aside, every single night you're reminded why you're doing this. Why the band took a risk on a painter who throws, paint around, and then these kids, and I'm thinking about, this could easily be one of my kids at home, or any of other of my friends' kids as well. And so, I got to meet 80 plus kids, and then, all throughout a year of people who were benefiting from these Make-A-Wish moments. So, that's just one. There's countless stories of I mean, I'm like going through my head right now. Even these we've done these small churches in South Carolina where they're raising money to like build another part of their school, and I meet the students and I meet the teachers, and these are the different things that they bring us out to not only entertain their audience who's supporting them, but also we know that these paintings are going to raise money for these causes.
All right, so let's fast forward back up to COVID here. You've had all this success. You've become known. People want you. You're in demand. COVID hits. The world stops for a lot of us. I did a lot of events too in the entrepreneurial community, and we were sort of in the same boat in a way. But then you had it sounds like maybe a light bulb went off or something like that, and you decided to turn it into something that entrepreneurial that could be scaled. Is that what happened?
In a sense, yeah. Well, I knew this. Nothing was going to take me off the road unless it was a major like health or injury or family thing. So that alone was a chance. It was an opportunity for me to stop, even also knowing there's people going through a lot worse things than I was, just to be home. Businesses that needed to go day by day. And I was like, look, there are much worse things happening in this world. But I also have to figure this out for my family. And so the first thing the purpose was, I got to be home with my family. That's number one. But how do I keep doing this without having to be gone on the road for 200 plus days a year? And so I thought, okay, what are the things that I always wanted to do with my time and my art that I could never had time before? And that was, I started getting into creating prints of my work, which we had done before, but we never really took control of it. It was just sort of out there. Like, yes, we had prints, but we never, created an event around our releases and making them more limited edition and really building value in that part of just the prints. We also got into doing, creating sort of an online gallery from my original paintings, but also, breaking these down into collections, price collections. So helping educate people on what they're buying and how to find what they're looking for. And so that's where we started. I mean, I started with just having these 11 by 14 prints like in these bins in my house to really working with this local printer to do, printing and fulfillment so that we can set up a system that when we do a release, it goes to the printer, it's fulfilled and so on. And this is at a very, very, very small scale. But you have to understand, for me at the time, I thought, okay, this is just the beginning of what I feel like we could build into later on. Because it's hard to scale the actual creative process, of creating something original. But once that's done, everything else beyond that can be done by other people, or you can build teams and systems to do that. So another thing too was we got into live streaming, and this was probably one of the biggest changes. I went into this new studio. We had 3 phones on a gimbal, and we just started live streaming 3 days a week. I would do 3 paintings per live stream. We started putting this content onto the world. We would catalog this content. And then we would edit this content down for different formats, because again, we never had time for this before. Started putting it on TikTok.
Oh.
And this was in early, March. But within 3 months, I was at almost 2 million followers on TikTok.
Wow.
And so with that, we didn't slow down with that. And then also other platforms grew as well. We started getting these different brand deals to do, create content for them. And so, it just opened up this time to create some new verticals. I think that would be the correct term.
Yes.
Just different ways to just generate income besides just the live shows. And, fast forward, a year later, we've just dialing in these systems, whether it's how we release artwork, whether it's how it's fulfilled in every part of the line. What we're doing now is we're sort of doing like a whole vertical integration where we're doing obviously the creating, the scanning, documenting, the printing, the fulfillment, and obviously the marketing along the way as well. And that's sort of where we're going for the future for my own self, but I want to scale that for other artists as well. And this is where we're, this is the fun part. We're doing some experimenting. Yeah.
Artists helping other artists.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. Oh,
Yeah.
that's very interesting. So when you envision the future, you'll have your own brand that can scale, where you don't have to leave home as often. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then helping the other entrepreneurs or the other artists. That's really interesting. Can you expand on that a little bit? And I'm also curious about the art scene in Sacramento.
Yeah.
So as we're here in the Sacramento region, the arts seem strong here. People really seem like they support it, but I've only lived here, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think first with artists, and this may tie into the Sacramento art world, is the way that I have been seeing successful artists now is they're creating their own art world, and it's usually based around something they're passionate about outside of art. So, for example, there's an artist I follow who. He goes by Athlete Portraits. His name is Blake Jameson. Super nice guy, very successful what he does, but he focuses on a very specific culture, which is just athletes and creating their portraits. And through that, he's built partnerships with athletes and sports teams and Topps cards, which have been exploding, and NFTs as well. But this world that he's attracting are the collectors of people who collect sports memorabilia. And so let's just use that same example for another artist who's specifically into, I'm just going to use a scenario here, reggae music.
Okay.
And they specifically create their favorite reggae artists or things within that culture. So you start attracting the collectors of those experiences. You're no longer trying to find people in the art world, which is vast and not, it's hard to categorize. You're attracting exactly what you love and you're passionate about, and you're expressing what you all love through your art.
Yes.
And so helping artists really focus on creating your own art world and the world around that. And that is really truly the beginning of building your brand.
You bet.
From there.
That's great. Okay, so is the art scene in Sacramento rank us? We're not New York,
No.
but we're not Lincoln, Nebraska either, I would
Yeah.
assume. I don't know Lincoln, so I shouldn't put them down in the art world. But if I see
Lincoln's a
murals
cool
on the
city.
side of buildings. I see things happening
Yeah.
in art, Crocker Art Museum, and so on. But I don't know how we rank. If you're an artist, is this a good place to be?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it's an amazing place. Specifically because, I'm an artist, you're an entrepreneur. In Sacramento, we could sit down and have a conversation. I may not have the same access in another larger city. Something that I've noticed here is the people that support me are like the Taros or like the Uriahs. It's people who aren't in the art world. And so that's what's unique to Sacramento is the reason why we see these murals on the side of buildings because they're sponsored by businesses that are local that want to, add culture to our city. So I think it's the mixture of not just the artists, not just the curators of galleries. It's adding in everyone from the community to bring culture to our city. So there's a really incredible collaboration that happens between business owners, entrepreneurs, and artists, in these worlds. So I got really my start in Sacramento by doing charitable events. At those charitable events, I met a lot of very generous people who don't make art, aren't part of the art world, but they want to support it. And there's a amazing supportive community.
Yeah, it's
out there.
amazing. You think about the amount of people you brought off the sidelines, right? You're at a charitable event and you discover David Garibaldi, and you're drawn into the art world all of a sudden. You've pried an investor off the sidelines, if you will, right? That's how I look at it. It's think about how you've changed that world just by being in front of large audiences and kind of drawing us into art. I would not be drawn to art if it wasn't, I love music, I like concerts and things, but in terms of, I don't think I've ever had an artist on the show before. This is like the first time.
I'm honored. I'm honored.
Well, so shame on me. But okay, so thinking about that impact as well, just the kind of different ways that success breeds success and bringing on others that want to help with that success as well. I love that. Okay, so go ahead.
But it's also important and this is the part where, I really want to help artists with, is how to open up to that world. Wanting to, that's the first and foremost. If you don't want to, that's okay. But if you want to, there's a world of support. There's also, subcultures that would support your art. And I could go down the list. But, it starts with the artist wanting to be open to it, because there is a supportive world out there. And I say this, but there is a myth that, artists have to be starving. And in the world that we live in today, it's not true. And there's so many tools out there and relationships you can build that go against that.
Yeah. Okay, so a couple last questions, and make sure we don't take too much of your time. So maybe here's a question I don't ask very often, but like what do most people not know about you that would be like shocking to them? Man. That would be like, oh, geez, I didn't expect that, because a lot of people know of you, but like what do we not know?
So one of my hobbies that I've gotten into the past few years is stand-up paddleboarding. I love floating on the water, and so I go out.
That's hard, man. You can have some abs.
I don't have the abs. They're somewhere buried inside, but I go to Lake Natoma quite a bit, and when I travel to different places, I try it out. But it's just like a hobby that I love doing. I love being alone in the middle of the water with my stand-up paddleboard.
Oh, you're alone. You don't go with somebody else.
I've done it time to time, but I mean 90% of the time I'm by myself, and I love it. I love golf also, but the early tee times, I'm usually on artist hours.
Yeah.
So 70 and
I can get you. We have our HaneyBiz charitable golf tournament. I'll get you a free. I'll get you a celebrity golf pass if you want to play. You don't even need to bring anything. You just bring you. Hey, look who I have here at my golf tournament. I get the man. So
I'll donate art if I don't have to wake up early. So. but no. Just stand-up paddleboarding has been a fun hobby of mine. It's summer too, so I was just out yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, I was out yesterday at Lake Natoma. So,
are people coming up? So you built a celebrity brand. Do people just sort of? I'm out there running in San Diego with Uriah, and people are waving to us on the beach, and it ain't for me, right? So
you never know.
But do people come up to you like on Lake Natoma? You're trying to get zen or whatever, your own time with nature.
Yeah, I mean, it happens in Sacramento.
Yeah.
It's more rare out of Sacramento, but it happens. But definitely in Sacramento, and it's usually the attendants that keep seeing me. They're like, "We see you all the time. Why do you look so familiar?" I'm like, "Because I come here quite a bit." And then we start talking. But it happens time to time for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so just let's go to the last question then, and maybe think about the other artists out there or entrepreneurs that look up to you or are thinking about how would I do something similar. Maybe just advice to that starving artist or that person that dreams about really turning something into something special and game changing.
Yeah. Everything will always go back to, what do you think about and enjoy outside of the act of creating? So if you're an artist, we take, pen to paper, we do, brush to canvas. That's a process. But the story that you tell on those canvases, that has to be something that you love outside of art, or you live outside of creating. And I say focus on that passion first, because that will be the answer to a lot of questions later on. It'll answer the question, who do I sell this art to? Who do I, market it to? Or who can I help with this? I think with focusing on that passion outside of art, you can really focus on a community that would support you. You don't need a massive following of millions of people online to be a successful artist. You could absolutely be successful with a handful of thousands of people that are engaged in that community that you express that love through your art. So focus on that one thing, and then I think that it still applies to business. I think your source of inspiration for your product or your service has to be on what do you enjoy? Who are you? What do you actually, because once you get in it, And I say this because I'm going to fast forward 10 years from now. When you're in it and you have your struggling years, that thing that's going to keep you going and wanting to keep innovating will be because you actually genuinely love it. And that goes back to that passion that you started with in the beginning.
Words of wisdom, words of inspiration. David Garibaldi, thank you for finally coming on the Mark Haney Show.
We did it, yes.
And, I think we learned, we got some learning in, and I think we are inspired to continue to follow you. And anyway, thank you very much.
Well, I want to give you your flowers because you're helping so many people through this, not only the podcast, but also just, I know that you're generous with your time and your advice with a lot of people. And this advice, in business translates to a lot of different areas, like the arts. And so I appreciate you just being open with everything that you share out into the world as well. So thank you.
You betcha. Thanks, David.
Thanks for watching today's show. My goal for every episode is that you find a takeaway, something tangible you can use in your business today. And if you have a comment about a favorite takeaway, feel free to put it in the box below. And if you have a topic that you'd like me to bring up on the show, don't forget to let me know. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship. Because at HaneyBiz, we are always by your side.